Consider leading with curiosity and not fear. Consider leading with curiosity and not fear. Let me go into that a little bit. Okay. So, several years ago, by the way, I'm someone who is introspective, who understands that learning and knowing about myself really well helps me navigate clearly and it helps to mitigate fear. And what I mean by fear, I'm not talking about the real fear, like something is chasing you and you better run, or your life, your wellness is at stake and you need to perk up. I'm not talking about that fear. Okay. I'm talking about the kind of fear that appears to be real, but it is not. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So, as I said, I'm someone who's introspective, who learns more and more about oneself, my actions, etc. Okay, so several years ago, I was in a workshop, personal development, and these workshops were also for professional development. So I was in this workshop. Actually, it was a seminar. It took place over several weeks, several months, a couple of months. And there was this exercise where you closed our eyes, we imagined giving something like a pain in one's body as a color or a shape. It was something along those lines. I do not remember the details of how I got there, but I do remember the results. And they were really surprising. So there I was sitting in this seminar with my eyes closed, along with hundreds of other people. And I was taken back to this incident that happened early in my childhood. And that was when I almost drowned. Yeah. At 7 years of age, I almost drowned. My family and family friends went to a state park over the summer, and there was a pool over a distance, and I persuaded my mother to allow me to go. And there I was at the edge of the pool, holding on to the wall, where all of the kids were just kind of like bobbing in the center. And it was like the actions and the activity and the energy, having fun. And, I started bobbing out a little bit, my feet no longer touching the bottom of the ground. And, if you remember what it's like being a kid where you think anything is possible because, that's a great time to imagine and being a kid. And I just was like drawn to the energy of these kids. And then I can no longer feel the bottom of the pool. And guess what? Guess what, folks? I didn't know how to swim. Did not know how to swim. Oh, the magnetism of energy. I just wanted to be out there in the middle with all of the kids and having fun. And it just felt like all of the lessons that I learned at 7 years old would just kick in, even though I knew I did not know how to collectively put all of that stuff together and swim. It felt like. So there I was, drowning, going under. And this kid picked me up and lifted me on his shoulders and up out of the water and on back to the side of the pool's edge. I don't remember much after that. I will admit to one embarrassing thing that I have recalled that I never want to tell anyone is after this wonderful kid, after he rescued me, I had this sort of like, oh, he's ugly. Anyway, listen, as human beings are complex. I was both grateful, but also aesthetically noticing. Shh, that's not the point. I never told my mother. I mean, after all, 9 years old and was able to persuade her to let me go. I was several feet. They were in the They were in the grassy park area and the pool was over yonder, okay? So convincing my mother to let me go. I was not going to tell that woman that, oh, you know what? When you finally gave in to my begging, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I wore my mother down. I don't know what it was. I probably wore her down with 3,000 requests. She finally let me go. Okay. So going back to this moment in the seminar, what also came up as this body sensations was that feeling of drowning and my ultimate demise in the moment, right? And I recognized the sensations in my body. And how I recognized those sensations was that I would get to a certain point of a business venture and I would stop. And my friends and people closest to me, they were they were always confused. It had gotten to a point where I just stopped sharing because I would get to a point and then I would abandon mission. I would get to a point and I would stop. And at some point, as someone who's very introspective and exploring, I kept going, I could not put my finger on it. Um, it, I'm, I, I don't know. I think that at some point I thought, well, maybe it wasn't meant to be. And I did this over and over with multiple different, business ideas. Get to a certain point and would feel like it felt like a threat. And it wasn't until I got into the seminar that I could associate the feeling of drowning with the feelings of the threat of moving forward on whatever that business venture would be. And when I recognized that, I was able to put, because first of all, recognition is major in how the brain operates. Once I was able to identify, like, oh, wow, no, that was when I was drowning, and that my decisions and my choices about businesses, what, yes, very uncertain, very much a creative, a creative endeavor, right? I had to realize that I was not going to die. And that being curious about my fears, being curious about those stopping points, I will tell you, it didn't come automatically. I will tell you that what I did instead was I decided, oh, maybe that's not the route to go. Or I was just like, you know what? I really don't want to do that. you know, um, and I didn't realize I didn't want to do it because the fear factor had kicked in. There's a part of the brain, and I'm sure if you're here and you're someone who's listening to this. Oh, by the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Lisa Freefeather, and I am um, deeply interested in how to be one's true, authentic self when we peel away the influences of a culture, society, or environment. Who were we and who are we really meant to be? And so I take an introspective approach using divination arts. And I'm particularly interested in women like myself who feel deeply, who are deeply sensing, and can easily react and respond to our environments to the point, to our detriment, to the point that we forget ourselves. Okay? So this is who I'm talking to. These are my people. These are my tribe I'm talking to. All right. So once I got curious, because like I said, my first reaction was like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. And I had a series of different businesses and I would get to a certain point and then I started thinking, well, okay, maybe I'm just a coach who likes to get people to a certain point and that's what I'm interested in. And that's just it. But once I identified a life threatening situation and how it felt in my body, this somatic reaction, and I started to pay attention to when or if that came up again. And once I was able to tag it, I could go further and further and further, recognizing and being able to distinguish and talk to myself about the fear and what would be the fear. And when, like I said, I'm not being chased or my life wasn't in danger, then I got to think about, okay, what was I thinking up? What was my brain coming up with to keep me safe? And this is the way it works for human beings. Once they make sure that the brain wants to make sure you're safe so you can live another day, so you can live another moment. Okay. So being curious, adding curiosity to fear, especially when it's not life threatening. And I know these current days across the world globally, with decisions being made, with uh, governments, politics, etc., legislation, etc., can feel like an attack, can feel like something to be fearful of, so that you don't even bother to walk up to it and to see what might be possible for you. So, I would say address things with curiosity and not fear. Where there is fear, question it and track it back to its main source. Why do you want to do that? Well, if you want to progress, if there's something that you're interested in, that there is this stopping, there is this barrier, question it and investigate it. So, where there is fear, investigate with curiosity and figure out what's yours, what's not yours, or what was yours, but just stuck in a different timeline. Like I did, that was that fear was stuck in a timeline of a 9-year old. Maybe in another story, I will address and the other aspect of my aesthetics on one side, my rescuer on the other side. Persona non grata. And that is essentially shadow work, right? It's the thing, and I don't mean what I mean by shadows, the things that we push in the back that we don't want to tell anyone. Like I could have shared the story about, being rescued and by this kid, but I also shared the other side of it that was innately there as I was sitting on the side of the pool, probably spitting out water. I don't know. I don't think it certainly wasn't at the point where someone had to like resuscitate me. So he caught me pretty early on. Maybe just a little chlorine water that I had to gargle down or gargle up. All right. Thank you for watching. And I'm losing sunlight. So I will catch y'all another time. Mwah! Bye now.